Back during the pre-release period for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl in the mid-2000s, there were reports and rumors swirling about the game that were so significant that talk about them survives even to this day. These reports concerned the claim that Diamond and Pearl were going to feature dark, fighting, and psychic-type starter Pokemon in a major shakeup of the classic Grass, Fire, Water starter Pokemon formula. This wasn't just a prominent rumor though, there were also official sources that alluded to this as well, as it was also reported by Cerebi back in the day that the claim of the starters being dark, fighting, and psychic had even been published on Pokemon's official website. While the Gen 4 starters ultimately ended up being the standard Grass, Fire, and Water trio, and nothing ever came of the Psychic, Dark, and Fighting type starters, it seems like something definitely could have been brewing behind the scenes based on these official statements, and there could have actually been Dark, Fighting, and Psychic type starters, or at least a plan for them, that were ultimately cut from the games. That is why in today's video, I wanted to explore this interesting scenario and give you guys a potential look at what those starters could have looked like if they actually came out, with some designs of my very own. This will be a fun look back at what could have been for Pokemon and how it could have changed the series forever. So let's go ahead and get into it. So as I've said before, none of the videos I make on this channel are able to happen without support, which is why I am very thankful for today's sponsor, Vitcher. Vitcher have quite literally created a device of the future with their Vitcher 1 XR glasses. These are a pair of glasses that you can hook up to your Nintendo Switch, and they will display the screen within the glasses, so you can play on a 120-inch 1080p screen anytime, anywhere. I actually got to try these myself as well, and they're pretty nutty. It's almost like you have your own private theater to play games in, and it is super immersive. The screen is huge as mentioned, it's crystal clear, and the glasses also offer adjustable diopter, opacity, and brightness settings so you can dial in the perfect playing experience for yourself. They even have speakers powered by Harman Audio that are built right into the glasses that are positioned next to your ears, and I didn't really know how the audio setup was going to work going in, so it kinda blew my mind. They're the perfect thing to play Pokemon on, or The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I actually got sucked in pretty hardcore playing Zelda on these, and it's something that you kind of just have to experience for yourself to know what it's like. So if you would like to experience the future of gaming for yourself, click the link below to check out the glasses, and when you use code HoopsandHipHop at checkout, you'll also get 10% off your entire order. So check that out with the link below to learn more, and a big thank you to Vitcher for supporting the channel. Okay, so the first lost starter we are going to look at today is the Dark type starter, and this is what it looks like. The art of the designs in this video, like this one, were commissioned from my good friend Oscar Belmonte, and he always does great work, so be sure to check him out with the links in the description. With that said, when it came to actually designing these starters, it was admittedly a bit of a challenge. While I knew that I wanted them to be themed around mythology, just like the actual Sinnoh starters are, something that starter Pokemon essentially have to be is based on actual animals, as opposed to inanimate objects or something like that. With the Dark, Fighting, and Psychic types though, that can be a little more challenging, since these types are more abstract concepts compared to the simple Elemental, Grass, Fire, and Water types. So that is what I was dealing with going into creating these starters, and it's what ultimately led us to our first starter here, the Dark type Hyrule. As I said, I wanted to follow in the footsteps of the official Sinnoh starters and make these starters themed around mythology as well, which is why Hyrule here is heavily inspired by Egyptian mythology. Egypt has some of the richest mythology of any place on Earth, so it seemed like a golden opportunity to pull from, and HiRuff pulls from it by being based on Anubis. Anubis is the well-known Egyptian god of the dead who has the body of a man and the head of a jackal, so HiRuff takes the form of a jackal-like creature that also takes some visual inspiration from the depictions of Anubis itself. As it is based on the Egyptian god of the dead, the idea is that HiRuff would eventually evolve into a dark ghost type in its final stage, in order to fully realize that Anubis inspiration. And while at the time of Gen 4, this type combo would have had no weaknesses since the fairy type didn't exist yet, we're already talking about the idea of alternately typed starters, so we might as well just full send it with the craziness and the different approach and have some fun with it. Finally, HiRuff gets its name from hieroglyphs, which are the characters that were used in ancient Egyptian writing and are an iconic symbol of the culture in mainstream media. Then, the back half of its name, Ruff, comes from rough, as HiRuff is based on a jackal and therefore is a canine. So that is what the mysterious dark-type starter of Gen 4 could have been like. But what about the psychic starter? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. This is what the possible psychic-type Sinnoh starter could have looked like. This is Brawlu, and he's not only psychic type, but as an owl is also flying type as well. Also, I am aware that Rowlet exists, but it didn't come around until Gen 7, and we're working here in the days of Gen 4, so an owl starter at this time was definitely up for grabs, and that is especially so because of this Pokemon's mythological inspiration. Since Empoleon is inspired by Greek mythology by being partially based on Poseidon, I wanted to give one of these starters a Greek mythology inspiration as well, and that is exactly what Brawlu is, as it is based on the Owl of Athena. Athena is the Greek goddess of wisdom, which I thought would be the perfect inspiration for a psychic type, especially because I needed to make it a cute, cuddly animal that would be befitting of a starter and not one of the many other weirder concepts that a psychic type could be. Furthermore, an owl made perfect sense because Athena is often accompanied by an owl herself, and there is even a real species of owl that resides in Europe known as the little owl, who is also known as the Owl of Athena as well. Couple that with the fact that owls are also general symbols of wisdom as well, and you have got yourself the perfect basis for a psychic type starter, so I'm really glad with the way that this one turned out. It also takes on the appearance of a more horned-like owl, since the Owl of Athena is commonly depicted this way as well, and I would say is the typical appearance of the wise, knowledgeable owl trope. This also plays a big factor in its name, as Brawlu comes from brow, as in its big eyebrows that give it that horned owl look. It also comes from brain, since it is a smart, wise owl, and then you also have owl in there too, and for a touch of cuteness, I also added the oo at the end, which comes from the who sound that an owl makes, and I thought that really rounded out the name nicely. So that's Brawlu for ya, and it's the kind of thing that we could have seen in Gen 4 if things had shaken out just a bit differently. And now, it's finally time to see what the fighting type of this bunch could have looked like too. Meet Turtot, our fighting type Gen 4 starter. Now, remember when I said that designing starters of these types was a challenge? Well, the fighting type Turtot here, I would say, was the biggest challenge, because so often when we see fighting types, they're very humanoid in nature, and are often these human-like, non-animal creatures, which a starter, at least in my opinion, just simply could not be. So we needed to be able to place the fighting type on a more traditional animal inspiration, have that make sense, while also having it work with the mythological inspirations that we obviously want to give it. And while all those considerations didn't make it easy, it is what resulted in Turtot. It's obviously based on a turtle, which is also a subtle nod to Turtwig, but in order to have it fit with the fighting type a little more, I decided to base it on a snapping turtle, just to give it that extra little bit of fighting type spunk. However, that is not what Turtot would stay as, since its mythological inspirations would ultimately have it evolve into a dragon turtle. Dragon turtles are creatures from Chinese mythology that are, as the name would suggest, a combination of a dragon and a turtle. Given the prominence of Chinese mythology, the fact that it was also used as inspiration for Chimchar, one of the official Sinnoh starters, and the general coolness of the dragon-turtle combination, I thought this would make for a great basis that checked all of the boxes that these starters need to check. However, it did present one conundrum. If Turtot is based on a dragon turtle, it would probably need to become part dragon type when it evolved, and probably become fighting dragon type. That's not really an issue on the surface, as fighting dragon is an amazingly cool type combo, but giving the dragon type to a starter could be seen as a little OP. However, since every other part of this concept is so cool, and we're already talking about something pretty different and crazy anyway, as I already mentioned, we might as well just go all in and let Turtot have the dragon type upon its final evolution, just for fun. Plus, if Mega Sceptile can get the dragon type, then I would say it's definitely up for grabs. I would say that Turtot is more of the payoff type of starter, where it really grows into its potential later on, but I think it could evolve into something truly amazing. And hey, if you would like to see what that looks like, be sure to give this video a like and a comment, and if it does well enough, we could potentially explore the evolutions of these Pokemon. Finally, the name Turtot comes from turtle, as you might expect, tot as in toddler or young person, referring to it as a first stage Pokemon, and it also comes from spot, not only describing the spots on its cheeks, but also the word spot, as in to spot someone who is lifting weights, which is another callback to its fighting typing. So, there you have it. This is what these lost Sinnoh starters could have been like, and what we could have seen in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl if things had turned out a little bit differently. While we may never know the whole story behind those initial reports, it's a super interesting story and a super cool potential idea, and it was a ton of fun to explore today. Be sure to leave a like if you thought so as well, let me know your thoughts with a comment, and like I said, we might be able to explore these Pokemon's evolutions in future videos if this one does well. With that said, I'll be back very soon with another video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out, and with that being said, thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and I will smell you guys later.